Welcome to Date with an Artist. Date with an Artist. A series of events supported by the Austrian Cultural Forum, who were here a minute ago, but hopefully they'll come back. So I want to thank them for their collaboration and support. And Date with an Artist is a series in which artists are talking or performing or exploring um, different challenges that we deal with in the period that we live in. And today we have artist Martin Krenn and educator and researcher Andrea Hubin, um, who will interact in a very interesting way. And I will now give the stage to Andrea to begin our session.
Okay. Yes, hello, everybody. Maayan, I was wondering whether you think that the group might grow still, because then I will talk very slow now.
There are probably a few minutes of potential growing.
Yeah. Because, of course, this is now arriving at this site, and maybe today this is also especially important to have this also slow motion of arriving at this site, even though it is only online and we are all staying in our personal contexts or places and from there participating there. So, but even the more it will be necessary maybe to connect also with the situation of this encounter, of this gathering here. And because today, what we have prepared for today is maybe a bit of an unusual situation, also in the series of talking that Maayan has curated and organized. Because it will not be a simple kind of watching art, top presenting art and discussing about it, but there will be slight interventions in how to approach the artworks of Martin Krenn, of which we are seeing two today. Also, what is a bit unusual for myself is because I'm art educator from my training, art historian and art educator, like my practice is this. So I'm working in Kunsthalle Wien, in Kunsthalle Vienna, and there as an art educator since many years, and and the idea of what art education is basically on construction situations of conversation and how and to do deliberate structuring of those situations of conversation. And this we will have today as well. But usually when I do things like this, we have things like very precise pre-registration situation, which we didn't have today. So as to know who will be coming, how many people will be there. And all of this information is today not so strictly available, but no matter, I would invite you to join also a collective experiment today, and I will propose some ideas on how to proceed. Yeah, so today this will be a teaser of what art education methods that I propose can do for us in such conversation situations. It might also be a bit of a rush because we want to see, even though only 2 artworks, but we want to see a lot of them and discuss them. And but so please, I hope you are with me in doing this experimental situation. We will, just as an announcement of the procedure for today, we will, as I said, we will see 2 artworks, 2 films, plus images accompanying one of films of Martin Krenn. What we will need today as well is your participation a bit, also from the start, actually. But what would that mean? Of course, it would mean that you contribute your thoughts at one point or your reactions to questions that I will put into the space. And you can keep your videos turned off actually, but eventually it would be nice to hear your voice also, and to, if you have an answer to a question, then to just say it to the group. But what also will be necessary is maybe to have an eye on the chat, because we will post information also in the chat. And we'll ask you to also type into the chat. So I hope that this will be possible for as many as possible from you. Of course, whoever has troubles to participate, there is no Zwang. What is Zwang? No. Martin, kannst du mir helfen? Was heißt?
You're not forced to participate.
It's not about forcing you to interact. But if you can, please, this is an invitation to do so. If there are any troubles, maybe it's best to write to Amos. Have I understood this right? Like in the chat, you can write to him. Yeah. And or just let us know also by speaking out if there are any troubles or questions on what to do now. There will be also a situation of breakout rooms, kind of in the middle. Yeah, and as I said, it will be a bit of an experiment, and also a jumping into the cold water. Is this a saying in English, like jumping into the cold water? Because we will not provide a lot of information before we see the first artworks. And Amos, I'm kind of moving over to the first film that we will see soon by screen sharing. Martin, it's a short film. It's about 2.5 or 2 minutes, 2 minutes 50 seconds film, and we will simply watch it, and then I will have a question in the end. And I'm just having a look whether I should say something before. Yeah, I think we just join us in watching this film now, and then we meet again for a question.
It's important to show the whole film because you stopped it.
Okay. Okay, I thought it said end, so I stopped.
Yes, but yeah, okay.
I will.
This often happens that credits are cut off, but
yeah,
and
in this case, it's really bad. Could we please? Could we please jump back? Okay, thank you very much. Maybe this tiny moment of trouble is not the baddest thing now to enter the discussion, because I have a question to you now, and I posted in the chat as well. What do you remember? And just post it in the chat or say it out loud. But posting in the chat will help so that everybody sees and hears it. And what do you remember? One word. Like, I always, yeah. Balloons is exactly what a gun, okay. Balloons, right, a bike. French music, it's interesting. Da, 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 da. Oh, so there is an identification, children's voices. Huh. Maybe also if all of us can look at the chat as well. So if you see something there that astonishes you, would be interesting. Do we have? Oh, wow, reenactment can be seen. Mm-hmm. And I have a follow-up question there. And from there, we might go also into a little form of discussion. So the follow-up question is, why do you think you remembered it? And there maybe we could simply have also statements also allowed of like turning on the mics and saying something.
For me, I think it's probably the two things most present in my life now, violence and children. So it's probably why this is what I remember.
Yeah. So it's you posted gun, no?
Gun and children's voice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Nikolaus, why do you remember the wind?
I think because of this flying structure in the background, and somehow there was this anxiety suddenly in the picture, which at some point it synchronized with the anxiety, like what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's also nice. First of all, Maayan and Nikolaus, actually, you both, may I connect this over this figure of anxiety that actually triggered like something that is moving also, or that is kind of unstable in its quality. Would this be okay?
Yeah. And Guy answered in the chat. He said, balloons, bench, bridge, elements I've been or still I'm working with myself.
Mm-hmm. So there is this link also to things that are an issue to oneself at the moment, and this puts up this verankern, anchors. This anchors maybe things that we've seen in kind of a memory process.
Christoph, you also.
Yeah. How can you remember a reenactment?
No, it's. I was wondering if the person, because he's an older person, is reliving something.
Okay.
That's why actually reenactment was not the right word. It should have been reliving. as if it was a post-traumatic stress coming out.
Mhm.
That was what I actually wanted to say. I was wondering who this person is and why he's shooting with a kind of children's gun or something you can usually use at the Luftdruckgewehr, no? It's I don't know, the air pressure gun, I think. So for me, it was a kind of eruption of the past.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to ask that where is this, or why I think this is interesting is because you had a question, and that's why a possible answer turns up as something that sticks with the mind. That could be also an interesting reason to say why did you remember it, or why is this the answer to what did you remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we miss one posting in the chat? Maybe we had many of them. Okay. Yeah. I mean, just to contextualize this little kind of teaser exercise on how to react to an artwork, I just wanted to post a quote by Walter Benjamin from his thesis or concepts on history, and I posted in the chat again, which I somehow felt that it really relates to somehow to the film, or that it is a proposal actually by Walter Benjamin on how to that I take up on how to frame maybe this film experience also that we have there. And it's to articulate the past historically. It does not mean to recognize it the way it really was. It means to seize hold of a memory as it flashes up at the moment of danger. And so what I take from there, also from my educational practice, which, pardon? Okay. What I take from there also as a kind of an attitude or an agenda maybe for my educational practice is basically that from where to start things is always a moment in the present, kind of also an issue in the present, and from there to look back to the past, which would, and this in educational setting, it most likely takes place in collective settings or in settings of group settings. So there it would be to somehow call up those moments of the present from the participants of the situation, and from there to approach the issue or the artwork or the art that we want to interact about. I mean, it maybe is a question whether it's appropriate to see this moment of danger that Walter Benjamin at that point means, which is of course the moment of danger of rising or brutal fascism taking place in Europe at the time of his writing of his thesis on history. And if it is appropriate or legitimate to apply this to the film and the moment of danger or anxiety that we have talked about before, that this film triggers in us. But yeah, maybe we can discuss this also later in the end. Just a question to the participants or people in the space. Are there any questions or are there any remarks that need to be kind of issued right now? Yeah, Gabriel, I think we don't hear you. You have to switch on. No, we still don't hear you, unfortunately. Yeah, now it should work. Yes,
now, okay. when as an artist, when I see an art movie, there's always a double take about what, because a movie narrates in a line of time, so it leads you into through your suspicions, because you're very skeptical when you see a work of art, because you don't know exactly, you understand that you're viewing something that has an intention. It's not viewing something on YouTube or you know, a section of, so it is the context of what we see that immediately puts it in a very different kind of reading. And we all the time, during the narration of the film or during how it leads you in, you all the time puzzled about what is the intention of that film. So on one hand, you look at the scene and you try to analyze the scene within a context of filmmaking. Is this a documentary? Is it a reenactment? Is it the artist walking in the street and with a gun, you know, like other artists done? I forgot what the name is. Where they do a dangerous act in the street, knowing that actually they will react. The street will react. You know, walking with a gun in the street, probably the street will react. And maybe it's an act like this. So I don't know what to expect. So I think while the movie, when it is actually resolved in an unresolved way, it's not in any, doesn't create any drama. It just takes it like, you know, it becomes a day in the life of an old man, or kind of. Mm-hmm. And also while you see his acting, you all the time question yourself, what do you see actually? You know, so you are kept puzzled all the way till it is resolved with the titles, and then you take it wherever you take it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with education, of course, on the one hand, this puzzlement by artworks is kind of the material that we need to work about. Like, but it's not like puzzlement. To feel safe in a situation of puzzlement is a very advanced or very also privileged kind of approach to art. So in education, we very often work with people who might be kicked out by a first impulse of puzzlement, and so there at this field of tension, many of the workings or the methods also that I propose are dealing to actually go into this method of puzzlement or the situation of puzzlement, but to link it somehow to an anchor or a stable ground that offers itself from the position of the viewers that enter the situation. And maybe to switch over to this, I want to invite you to another round of trying to bring the contexts where we are now also into the situation, which is actually usually a bit more difficult if you meet somewhere in an art space with the people. And actually Zoom, Zoom is, or video conferencing is bad, but or not so nice, yeah, to do art education. But on the other hand, it offers exactly this, that we can bring directly the place where people stand or sit at the moment also to the discussion in a way. And for this, I would like to invite you to now have to now listen to me and to have a look around in the situation where you are right now, and to look for objects that could fit, for one object that could fit into a criteria that I will name now. Just identify this object for yourself. There will not be a necessity to tell what it was in the end. But if you wish to, of course you can then, but just join maybe this situation, and maybe remember in the end, what was the object where you said, I hook in here, this kind of object I have, kind of where I am right now, and remember the question or the criteria for because of which you choose it at the moment. Okay, yeah. So have a look at your surroundings, at the places where you're sitting right now. Like maybe you are sitting at the table, maybe you have stuff on the table, maybe the table is totally free. You're sitting most likely in an interior space. And my questions would be now, is there something that you found recently that grows, that burdens you, that is broken, that has broken something, that you will throw away soon, that was expensive, that disappoints you or disappointed you, that is unique, that can be regarded as a cultural treasure, that you use for something else that it originally was meant or designed for, that you at least once have dreamt about, that you had an argument about, that needs a lot of care, which you give. Something that is older than you, something that you have no clue about how old it is, something that confuses you, something that you feel an urge to clean soon, that has to be cleaned soon. Something that calms you and makes you feel safe. Something that is a fragment or a part of something. Something that you, when you request it, could give a lecture about. Something that you know nothing about. Something you would lie about. Something that establishes an order. Something that relates to training, learning, formation. Something that is part of a preparation. Something that is a ruin. Something that is a document. Something that is history. Okay. So I hope that in this criteria, you found something in your room where you are right now that applies to at least one of these criteria, which also will hopefully make you remember this criteria that I listed here, or this one criterion that I said. Just try to keep it for yourself now. I wanted to say something. Yeah, and if none of the criteria have applied, I mean, then this will be interesting as well, of course, yeah. So then just take a random object and we can talk in the end that nothing has applied of the criteria that I have put now. And from here, I would like to take this kind of lupe. What is lupe, Martin? Do you have lupe for me? Like glasses?
Magnifying glass.
Like a magnifying glass, yeah. Like take this criterion and maybe also the object that you choose that it is as a magnifying glass now. And we will send you now to breakout rooms, like in couples, always only 2 people. And there will be, and we will ask you to always have a look at one photographic image from Martin Krenn's installation World's End. Every group, you will be assigned to the group, so you cannot choose. And we prepared links for every group that will lead you to one image where you can have a look. And yeah, Thank you, Amos, for posting that. We post this afterwards as well. So maybe just copy the link from the chat and keep it so that you can watch the image together. And please try to apply this magnifying glass of the criteria to the image and see whether it somehow links, whether it somehow breaks from the image, one object, one situation, one moment that could be interesting. And from there, we will go to the question of what film do you think we will watch afterwards? Or what is the film, the imagined film that we will see afterwards? But now just have a look at those photographic images. And I think, Amos, from there, we do the experiment of jumping to the breakout sessions. And I wish you all a lot of fun.
Let's go. If you have any troubles, I'm in the main room, so you can go out and talk to me. One second. Look.
Hello back again, everybody. I hope you had fun in the conversations and that it somehow put the trajectory of your discussion of what was there before. If not, it's also okay. Then you talked about other things. It's also fine. But one thing is we immediately would like to go now into watching parts of the film World's End that relates very much to the images that we shared there. And also in the sense that many of the images appear in the film. We won't see all of those images now in the sequences that we choose for. But before we start, as we start soon, but before we do that, we will see two parts, like the beginning of the film, and then a sequence from the second half of the film. So in sum, it should be about 10 minutes. And just until we start it, or until Amos is able to switch to the screen sharing, just have in mind, what do you expect to see now? Or what do maybe, or from having discussed the images, what are you maybe also hoping to see now, or to see in context? Because we talked before, Gabriel mentioned also context of things, of single images. Yeah.
I've been told that there is a small village that counts 350 inhabitants and is located in typically Irish grass hill scenery next to the rocky sea coast. However, the nicest part of the surrounding coastal countryside is a military restricted area and has been occupied by a British Army camp for more than 100 years. Anne-Marie showed me a village model of this place. Sand symbolises the beach. On one side of the fence, ceramic houses depict the army barracks, whereas the ones on the other side represent the village. A sand path goes the whole way to the back beach. Up until 3 years ago, the villagers used to be able to walk to the back beach, but now they can't anymore because they have to pass the military area. Anne-Marie founded 2 cultural centres. One is a converted caravan and the other one is a disused hairdresser's. She organises social activities from mother and toddler meetings to bingo for pensioners. Her practice is described as actions which seem like practical community work and are turned into happenings and performances through her politically provocative, practical and poetic artistic vision. Philip told me that he has a personal reason for taking an interest in the camp at the village, because as a young boy growing up in a very Protestant environment, he didn't have the slightest compunction doing that. because he didn't remotely think that the British Army was anything other than protecting him. So he worked there for 2 summers, and just after the final summer, a few days after he left, the IRA blew up the soldiers' home where he was working. This happened just after he painted it and killed people whom he knew well. There was the Great War, and the military camp played an important role in it as a training camp for the Ulster Division. Philip told me that by December 1914, the entire British brigade of the Ulster Division was assembled in a newly built tin camp, made up of sturdy huts faced with corrugated iron and heated by smoky coal and log burners. It was the name World's End which stuck to the place in the winter of 1914-1915. Many men did feel they had come from the bright lights and bustle of the city to the very end of the world. Although there had been an army camp here since the earliest days of the Boer War, the facilities were minimal and the atmosphere, in winter time, rather bleak. According to Philip, the Ulster Division was to parade in full military ceremony through the streets of central Belfast on the 8th of May 1915, shortly before the War Office sent them to the front line in France, where they found themselves stranded under shell fire in no man's land, within a bloody battle zone that could not have been more different from the quiet, wind-swept coastal isolation of the training camp. After the Great War was the Irish War of Independence, which started in 1919. Numerous Republican prisoners were taken to the British Army base that was transformed to service as an internment camp until 1921. Anne-Marie showed me a train station that is about 4 miles away from the camp and told me that many of the Republican prisoners came to this stop and then had to walk up to the camp. Louis, one of these prisoners, remembered that when he reached the internment camp on the 5th of January in 1920, conditions were tolerable for him. But the other prisoners told him that during the first 2 or 3 weeks of the camp, the treatment they had received had been very bad. After they had been duly handcuffed,
let's stop here and go to the second part.
With handcuffs where it was Scotland. There is a memorial stone at the camp to commemorate 2 soldiers who were killed on the 28th of October 1974 in Provisional Irish Republican Army van bomb attack at the soldiers' home where Philip had worked as a boy. The 300-pound bomb, concealed in a delivery van parked on the opposite side of the road from the soldiers' home at the base, exploded without warning, causing the building to catch fire and collapse. In 1986, the stone was unveiled outside a new soldiers' home built on the site of the destroyed one. Anne-Marie told me that once at the bus stop near the village, the wall was covered with graffiti. All tags using cloth bus stop are now targets. The same sentence was written on the ground. All tags using cloth bus stop are now targets. Tag is a vitriolic slur for members of the Catholic community. Her children used the bus stop to get the school bus. She also used it whenever she went to art college. That evening she came home and went to the cloth community, but they wouldn't do anything about it. She even phoned the school, but the headmaster wouldn't do anything. And then she phoned her friend Peter from the next town. They put on their fluorescent jackets with artist on it to protect them. Then they went to the local shop, bought cleaning equipment, got water, and washed and scrubbed and scrubbed. People came by, the newspapers came, and then the local politician came. He asked them, "Who are yous? What are yous doing?" They answered, "We are artists from the University of Ulster. The university sent us here to clean this up." And then Anne-Marie said to me, "That's when I learned that art is life and life is art." I heard about a Protestant school in the village built for the children of the soldiers. Anne-Marie said that the school was closed a few years ago, probably because the wives of the soldiers were not bringing the children over. Now the army brings the children to a primary school outside the village. Philip told me he is interested in the way in which the soldiers of the Rifles Regiment are trained for Afghanistan. He was told some stories during his visit of the camp, but just really can't tell them because he was sworn to secrecy. He was once at a beach with a range warden, and when they were walking along, he looked into a brush at the side of a path, and there was a flask, a blue flask for coffee or something. And the range warden said, "We are not picking that up because," he said, "at another place recently, the range warden took it up and it blew off his hands." Philip said that the restricted military area had gradually become a haven for wildlife and rare flora, despite the obvious danger to all living things from gunfire. Even a marine biologist was summoned to hand-feed seal pups, which had become orphaned at an early age, before releasing them back into the sea. Jack, a young soldier, escorted me to a different area and historic site of the camp. He didn't know much about the history of the camp, but he could tell me a few personal stories about his last stay in Afghanistan. At the end of a long day, we went to the beach, and a surreal image of emptiness unfolded in front of us. When we reached the seals that were resting peacefully on the beach, the sun suddenly disappeared, and it started raining heavily. We hurried back to the barracks, where we found shelter in the officers' mess.
So even though this cuts off the credits, I would stop it here. And Martin, if you feel that we should see the credits, then we can maybe add them later there. And yeah, from now on, it would be open discussion. but I would ask you all maybe to post a keyword into the chat relating to a thought you had during the last hour, or a keyword also relating from your discussion, maybe in the breakout group, or a keyword on what you think, how the exercises or the proposals I made relate to the art, or just a keyword so that we have a little bit of an appearance of the whole collective thinking that is there in the chat. Mm-hmm. Ah, cleaning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. From there on, I would invite you all to also have a look at the chat. Maybe you have also questions on how this or that keyword came into play. And maybe you have questions to Martin also, because he didn't have a say so much. And I would simply open the floor from there. Also questions to me, why do I do this like this? I'm open for that as well. I mean, I have a curiosity on cleaning. It was how this, you haven't been in a breakout group, so.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I saw the cleaning. It just reminded me a story of my dad, that he went back from war after a long period in war in Yom Kippur War in '72. They went out of like the service from the front lines, and they came back, and a reporter took a photograph of them while they were like having a first shave after 30 days or something. So this kind of cleaning supplies and the war, and it all kind of went into that story.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, for me, this is what I remembered.
And was this story coming up like, did you link it now to the film, or did you link it to kind of the questions or the images before?
I think I saw it more in a subjective way, like what does this mean to me? Because it was hard following the story, also with being, you know, in the Zoom and everything, in charge of that. So it's hard to. I had other worries, so I got like glimpses of concentration, I can say, while watching the film. So I kind of got the images and not the big narrative, I can say. Like I understood it, but
yeah, but all the more it is astonishing that this issue somehow like cleaning is an important moment in the film, like in the sequence that we saw, at least. Like to have to clean something, the urgency to clean something, the wall, the tags from the wall, like the story about the artists cleaning the wall, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, please.
Yeah, what I I all the time thought about the British, the Brits, this nation, because I come from, I spent some time now in England again, and I'm always fascinated by the English society because it has these has very various aspects. On one hand, it is an amazing, friendly place to live, and I can only see the qualities, the British life. But there are the very brutal aspects of this life, and that's the British Army and its history, colonial history that surfaces. So on one hand, you have all this glamour of Britain, and on the other hand, you have that kind of hidden. And this little island, this little Irish spot, you know, I didn't know about it, but it's almost like the hinterland of where the British are tough, where the British are really harsh and cruel, because they have a history of cruelty as well, you know? And especially against the Irish. And especially now when the whole Irish problem appears again in England, vis-a-vis the Brexit, suddenly this tension arises again.
I mean, I was wondering, like with this, like you describe the British, you started with describing this nice feel about the British, and then it turned over, of course, to this histories of violence that you connected then in the end. And I was wondering whether we could have a look at the chat in the sense of we have cleaning there and the necessity to clean, and in the film also, but then we also have this aspect of traces, also of remembrance, also of cherishing traces, like in the field of history, politics, traces is, in my view, is somehow more positively coined thing, like to have to find a trace and to think about it and to follow the trace and so on. But
what I say maybe mention is part of the experience in Britain is that they are very, very linked to the past. England is in the past, and at the same time, it is very, very futuristic. It's very looking forward. So, but the past is very deep. As you see, you have still a royalty, and the officers' mess is again one of those kind of aspects that and we were exposed to the picture from the officers' mess, and that's why this film was brought to me through the idea of the officers' mess, which is one of those clubs, which is an institution within England that always hierarchy of social hierarchy. The officers have always had their club, you know. And I said to Guy that I talked to that when I was in the Royal College, we had the senior common room, which was like a club for the tutors. I was teaching there, so it was glamour. It was like a 5-star hotel dinner and 5-star hotel lobby with the Francis Bacon and on the wall or paintings like Hockney. I mean, decorating the room with beautiful sofas. So you had this immediately kind of again. They always to create hierarchies within their society. If you travel to for 10 minutes on a railway between London and Heathrow, you have first class. For a 10 minutes journey on the train, you have a first class carriage. So it's a very hierarchical society.
I mean, we have, Guy, you posted colonial heritage there, and it's also what Gabriel now tells a story about is also heritage of structures or sticking to those hierarchies, or sticking maybe to this cleanliness of this officers' mess image that we saw. And I'm wondering whether there is this ambivalence of getting rid of it and how to get rid of it, but also having to understand that the traces are the point where we can discuss about things. Maybe, why would you like to say something about this?
I mean, we'll wait 1 second.
We hear you.
Maybe I will try to connect it also to the dream of Maayan, or at least this word, because in the picture that we've been looking at, of the photograph, it was hard for me to tell you what we're looking at, but there was an object on a table and it seemed to be like a miniature of a monument to me. And on the foot of this monument were kind of animals, like a rhinocorn or and they were kind of the base of this memory or of the moment. And this brought me also to the colonial idea of Britain all over the world and bringing the animals into the like part of the monument. And I was thinking that maybe the animals can, or like can be a starting point of a cleaning process, or like to address the animals as a part of this work that can be done in addressing the colonial violence and processes and so on. And maybe this is a dream. I don't know if I make sense in what I'm saying, but yeah.
But of course, if you say something like cleaning away the animals, then I get troubled in my like, and there shows immediately up the ambivalence of those categories of getting rid of and sticking to something. And Maayan, maybe you want to share your story about the disappointment and the ambivalence of the scissors.
Yeah, it actually strangely, I mean, I had two associations, but they're very associative. So one, I mean, the object was the scissors that I cut my child's toenails with. And I told Andrea and Martin that it's always an object of disappointment because there's always been a struggle. Like he doesn't like it, and I feel like I'm torturing him, but I have to do it because otherwise they grow too big and they start like punching him, and then it becomes an issue. And then only a week ago, I tried to do it in his sleep because I'm always afraid to wake him up because the sleep is like this big issue. The baby doesn't sleep, and then the mommy doesn't sleep, and then the mommy never sleeps, etc. And it went really smoothly, like he didn't even move, and I managed to do it. But then this, like, and this, like, between care and harm, and it also, of course, has to do with the boundaries that you put as a parent. But then it suddenly sent me into another memory where I studied in RISD, and I was lying in the grass because we were watching the picture with the grass and this little sign that at the beginning Martin wasn't sure what he said, but then he said that it said danger. And then I remember that I was lying in the grass in Rhode Island, like half sleepy, but then I heard the sirens in the distance, and I thought that it's like this tension between freedom and danger, or this premonition that this freedom of being young and studying in university and not having a lot to worry about is not something that will remain forever. So these were the two things that were kind of like in conjunction. Not directly related to battle and soldiers, but more to like the everyday battles. But I think also the combination of like now after seeing the film, the combination of the voiceover and the images creates some sort of intimacy. This is why I wrote intimacy later. It's like you only hear the voice of one person, but you could really like hear the other voices of the people who told him the story resonating through the site, even though you don't see people in the site.
I see in the chat that Radostina has posted unhomeliness. I'm not sure, Radostina, whether you want to say something, because now intimacy was on the table, and then this connection to the unhomeliness. Hello.
Yeah, it was like the first or second word that came. Also, my discussion, my object was connected with my, at the moment, unhomeliness. So I'm like living in two places and the end like nowhere. And this, so life of soldiers, I thought, and the people that live in this village, I don't know the story exactly, but, and the photographs, they gave me this feeling, there are homes, but these homes are like, they are tended to be homes, to be comfortable and welcoming, but at the same time, there is some hostility, or maybe not hostility, but emptiness. Like there's no soul inside it, or the souls are, they flew away. So that's why in brackets, homelessness, or this dream for a home, or for protecting someone's home, one's home, and then this ambivalence between protecting and losing and not having, you know, it's, these are like quick thoughts.
I mean, Martin, maybe you want at this point to link in also, because I think to this question of for whom those sites were forced upon them home at one point. I think these stories are important there, no? Or maybe you want to tell a bit about the film also there.
Yes, thank you. Actually, for me, this is really an amazing experience I never had before. And I think it worked quite well, because normally you present an artwork and you sum it up so that everyone understands what is the core of the work. And okay, and then everybody says, yeah, interesting or not so interesting. And in this case, it's a completely different approach. So and what is really amazing for me is that I can actually relate to every statement that you have made. That is actually part of my film, of the film and of the work, but from a different angle, of course, although you don't know the whole film and the whole story. And this is amazing for me because it shows me how strong images are, and also short stories probably, because they, for example, this homeliness, unhomeliness, or what is the term? Unhomeliness. I think it suits very well. It's because actually this is a military base in Ballykinler. I never tell the name of Ballykinler in the film actually, but I tell you, no, it's not a secret. But I want to abstract it, to be a bit more abstract for the view. That's why I don't say, look, this is Ballykinler. But actually, World's End Camp, it's the real name of the camp, so you can find it. You can Google it. It's not a secret. And so this is a British military base in Northern Ireland, and and there is also a small village, Ballykinler, it says in the beginning. And Anne-Marie Dillon, she's a resident there, and she's also a socially engaged artist, and she's a mother of a huge family too. And she's collecting the Nissen huts in her garden. And so this is an amazing person. And she studied at the Ulster University of Art, where I also studied. And this unhomeliness, it relates so much because actually I had the privilege. I don't know how I got this privilege. Actually, Anne-Marie Dillon helped me to enter this this military base and to get the permission to shoot photos there. And this is amazing because it is. I think you even can't see it on Google Maps. It's because it's a high security area actually, but I don't know, she managed to help me, and then I had a soldier who accompanied me, and he showed me the camp, and he was with me, and he actually was in Afghanistan before. But there's so many stories now, but I want to relate to this unhomeliness term, because actually there's some families are living there in this military camp. So this is also the description of the school. So they had a school in the camp, and then they had it in Ballykinler in the village, and they have their own supermarket there. So I'm wondering if they are really feeling home there. And then also I heard that not many families want to live there. and with their fathers or husbands. So, and also the officers' mess, all these remarks to this, I couldn't believe what I saw. I was not informed before. And then there is this battlefield and all these military structures, and then you go into this officers' mess, and you see this colonial decoration, post-colonial situation, and all the people there were so friendly to me, and I had lunch with them, and I felt like in a movie. I couldn't actually believe that this is true. And I'm also wondering if they feel home there or not, actually, because they are most of them are far away from their families, and maybe then they at this time they had to go to Afghanistan again. So it's a very strange situation there. So it's just one, and also the cleaning. That's why I posted the whole part from Anne-Marie Dillon, because it's so much related to the film when she is cleaning the walls of a graffiti against Catholics, against the Irish, saying all takes using Clark's bus stop are now targets. So her kids are now should be targets. So, and then she cleaned it by herself because no one else, and with the help of a friend. And she said that this is actually an artistic act because she wrote "artist" on the back of her clothes. So it's a there are so many fascinating stories related to this place. So it's amazing to hear from you your associations and your thoughts without knowing the whole artwork. And I think, Andrea, you really did a very great mediation project, actually. And for me as an artist, I can only say it's super interesting to be part of it, because maybe normally the artists are not part in your mediation projects, because you also can have another look at your own artwork through such a project. So thank you very much.
I mean, maybe we can take from there a last round of comments or reactions, things that should be said still, because Martin also has to leave shortly past 10:30 there. I would like to put one thing on the table, that when yesterday in the preparation, I watched the film, and it's a film, and then you told the story now on why this film actually consists of images, like of photographic images. So it has no moving image in it, no? But am I right? It has no moving image. But that actually, after I watched the film in the preparation, and then I thought I have a brilliant thought about it, that it combines photographic image with a fixed frame, which looks like a photo, but actually in the back, the wind is blowing and the grass is moving and the hair of the horse is moving and things like. I totally had the memory of these things moving in this movie. I was promising it to someone else, that this would be something to see. And this, of course, links back to Nikolaus, what you said in the beginning about the wind, and the thing that what you remembered from the one-shot film, like those things in the back that were blown by the wind. And I'm still wondering what this means. Why did I see the wind blowing where it wasn't? Maybe someone has an answer.
One thing I would like to add is that the narration was amazingly pleasant and very, very precise. The text was amazing. I think it was really in a right proportion to the images.
Yeah.
It complemented the images, and it narrates it beautifully. A very precise language, which I really enjoyed. Sometimes narration, upsets you in some way. And here the narration was really, although it was in a heavy accent in terms of a German reading English, or, you know, so it had that personal aspect, but the quality of the narration was high, very very pleasant. And the other,
my favorite accent.
one more thing that I, as ex-soldiers, we all in Israel ex-soldiers, you know, so we know these areas, these deserted areas that the army needs to practice in. And you always wonder in England that is so cultured in terms of its geography that they find spots where the army can destroy and shoot and do all this training. It's like what we call in Israel Shetach Esh, these kind of deserted areas that are actually taken from the public in order so the army can play the machines. And they create these kind of zones that are really weird because they are in between, they are kind of a hinterland, they are kind of in between lands that are taken away from, you know, from the society in a way, and they create a different geography totally, you know, and different architecture, different geography, and different nature. So this kind of sinkhole in a Northern Ireland is probably the last place you want to be, you know. I can understand the families that don't want to be there.
I mean, I was now wondering whether the atmosphere of the narration that was over the film, this very dense but also calm and like it raumgebend. It makes a space, like it opens a space, like it opens an atmosphere, and maybe this is also the reason why I saw a wind blowing, like I saw the air in the images moving somehow, and I think this related to the narration, to the way of narrating things also.
For me, it was completely different because when you said we are going to watch a film and we're going to, let's think what we expect, I automatically imagined a moving image, and it's the first thing I noticed that there is no moving image. But that's also a personal thing that I concentrate on about the movement. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally classic. That's why you try to explain the least possible to feel comfortable before you approach an artwork. Like it's necessary to arrive at the place, but from then on you try to explain nearly nothing about the artwork because it does exactly this. It closes down on regarding expectations, and that closes down on the potential of what you can see when you then watch it. If you expect a film, you will be disappointed. And there we're back to the disappointing thing. If you expect a film, you will have, of course, not badly disappointed if you don't see a film then. On the other hand, maybe one understands things there also. So disappointment is also good. Maayan, what do you think?
I think it was wonderful, and I want to thank you, Andrea and Martin, for being here with us and for doing such serious preparations. And I also learned a lot from it as someone who, you know, is a curator and who also teaches art. I think that it's also interesting not only for online formats, but for online formats, it's extremely interesting because it adds a level of intimacy and creates a connection between the space in which the listeners are in, which is different than the space in which the artist and the moderator are in. So it creates this sort of connection between the home space and the discursive space, which I think is really wonderful. Um, and I want to thank you all for being here with us, and to thank the Austrian Cultural Forum again, and to invite you to the next date with an artist with Sani Felzer and Giorgio Gunostoy, which is going to be very different with the video. We used to call it video dance, but we don't call it like this anymore. But anyway, it's a video that they did especially for us with the dance performance in a mall, and a very unique fashion object by Giorgio. So you're all welcome. And thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much to all of you also for your participation and your interaction.
Would it be possible to have to watch the film in its completeness?
I can send the links
Yes.
you sent me
Yes.
in the chat.
You can post the links.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Gabi.
Bye.
Bye.
Gaita, tickets and shalom.
Okay, I think the part 1, part 2 is better than the trailer. Ah, no, here it says everything. Sorry, that's right. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye.